Imagine making $750,000 a year,
Right.
almost entirely in passive income, and you're running this high-end tech agency, but you don't actually know how to write a single line of traditional computer code.
It sounds totally fake.
Exactly. It sounds like one of those late-night internet scams, the aggressive ads you scroll past where some guy is standing in front of a rented Lamborghini.
Yeah, buy my course for $1,000.
Exactly. But today, we are actually looking at the documented math behind the 2026 no-code agency boom.
It's a really fascinating space.
It is. We're doing a deep dive into this rapidly evolving, incredibly lucrative, but also kind of perilous world of starting an international digital agency today.
Right, because it's not all sunshine and Lamborghinis.
Not at all. So the stack of sources we're pulling from today includes in-depth market analyses, detailed financial breakdowns, and strategic blueprints for building websites using platforms like Webflow, Framer, and Shopify.
Specifically targeting Western clients, which is key.
Right. So our mission for this deep dive is to figure out, for you listening, is this business model still a hidden gold mine, or is it basically a trap waiting to spring on unsuspecting freelancers?
And to really understand the sheer scale of the landscape we're evaluating here, we have to look at where enterprise technology is currently sitting.
Okay, set the stage for us.
So there's this staggering statistic from our market analysis sources that basically validates this entire industry. By 2025, it was projected that 70% of new enterprise applications would be built using no-code or low-code platforms.
Wait, 70%? That's massive.
Yeah, it's huge. We've moved way beyond this just being like a fringe movement for hobbyists making personal blogs. It is the new standard for corporate infrastructure. But, and this is big but, while the barrier to entry is incredibly low, the landscape you're stepping into is highly nuanced. It's full of structural hazards.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because before we get into those hidden hazards, we really have to explore why this model is so magnetically attractive to people looking for, remote work or a serious side hustle.
It really comes down to the math.
Yeah, the sheer math of the margins and the power of geographic arbitrage. So let's look at what clients are actually paying right now.
Right.
In the US and Canada, our sources show that businesses regularly pay between $500 and $3,000 just for a standard landing page.
Just a single page.
Yeah. And a full corporate website runs $1,500 to $8,000. Then you get to Shopify stores, and those can easily command anywhere from $2,000 up to $20,000.
And that geographic pricing strategy is basically the engine of the entire operation, assuming you're working internationally.
Right, because not everyone is based in the US.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The UK market, for example, is highly lucrative. I mean,
Yeah.
it's #1 in Europe for venture capital investments.
Sure.
But the baseline prices for web development there are typically 10 to 20% cheaper than the US.
Oh, interesting.
And then if you look at Eastern and Southern Europe, the going rate drops significantly. That sits about 30 to 50% lower than the US market.
So basically, if you're sitting in a cafe in Lisbon or working from your apartment in Warsaw, the goal is obviously to target those US and Canadian markets to capture that higher tier of pricing.
Exactly. You're leveraging your location against their economy.
And the kicker here, the real draw, is the startup cost. To command those thousands of dollars, your initial monetary investment is essentially a rounding error.
It's basically nothing.
A clean launch is possible with just $100 to maybe $500.
Yeah, you're mostly just paying for a platform workspace subscription.
Which is what, like 20 to 40 bucks a month?
Right around there, yeah. And then maybe a custom email domain for $10 to $20 so you look like a legitimate business, and I guess LinkedIn Premium to start doing client outreach.
So the required capital is just incredibly low.
Because your primary assets are simply your time and your acquired fluency with these no-code platforms.
That makes sense.
And when we look at a typical transaction for the financial breakdowns, the numbers just look jarring.
Give me an example.
Let's say you sell a corporate website for $2,500. The direct expenses, the actual cost of goods sold, is basically just your platform hosting fee. Let's call it $50.
Okay.
That leaves a gross profit of $2,450.
Which is a 95 to 98% gross margin.
It's wild.
It's like running a high-end gourmet restaurant where the ingredients for a $100 steak only cost you $2.
That's a great way to put it.
But hold on, right? 98% profit sounds like fantasy math. Are we just pretending that a freelancer's time is completely worthless?
Well, no, of course not.
Because if a project takes 40 hours of focused labor to build, that time is a massive expense. You aren't just magically pocketing 98% of every single deal.
And what's fascinating here is the massive delta between gross margin and real operating margin.
Right, because gravity eventually kicks in.
Exactly. The gross margin is technically 98% if you look purely at software costs and you execute the project entirely alone in a vacuum.
Which nobody does.
Right. As you operate a real business, reality hits hard. You have customer acquisition costs, or CACIC. You're paying for advertising spend. You're losing percentages to payment processing fees through Stripe or Payoneer.
Oh, yeah, those definitely add up.
And you're setting aside money for taxes, obviously.
Yeah.
And eventually you hit the cost of hiring specialized contractors.
Like copywriters or graphic designers.
Exactly. Because no one is perfectly skilled at database logic, graphic design, and persuasive sales copywriting all at the same exact time.
So when you factor in all those real-world operating expenses, what does it look like?
The net margin comes down significantly. For a solo expert who operates with just, ruthless efficiency, that net margin realistically sits between 70 and 90%.
I mean, still a phenomenal return.
Oh, absolutely. But if you scale up to a micro-agency model, meaning you are the project manager, and you have 2 or 3 outsourced freelancers handling the actual design, and build your margin drops to about 45 to 60%.
Okay, so you're doing less operational grunt work, but you're slicing the pie into smaller pieces.
Precisely.
Even at 45 to 60%, though, those are the kind of margins that a traditional brick-and-mortar retail business would just do anything for.
We'd be thrilled.
Which brings up a glaring contradiction. If the operating margins are still hovering around 70% for a solo worker, why isn't every single freelancer on Upwork extremely wealthy?
That is the million-dollar question.
Our sources actually dedicate a lot of time to debunking an illusion in this industry, something they call the 2080 time management trap.
Yeah, this trap stems from a fundamental misunderstanding of what the job actually entails.
Break that down for us.
Well, beginners enter this space, assuming they will spend 80% of their working hours being creative. Designing beautiful interfaces in Webflow, tweaking animations in Framer.
Doing the fun stuff.
Right. And then maybe 20% of their time sending a few emails to find clients.
But the reality is the exact inverse, isn't it?
80% of your time is utterly consumed by administration and sales.
Oof.
You're doing cold outreach. You are sitting on endless discovery calls. You're writing detailed proposals, negotiating contracts, and managing just endless client revisions.
So only 20% of your time is actually spent on platform development.
If you're lucky, yeah.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. If you are an incredibly talented designer, let's say you're the absolute best Framer developer in your entire city, but you absolutely hate sales.
Yeah.
Is your agency basically dead on arrival?
Yes. Honestly, yes.
Wow.
Development is rarely the bottleneck in this business model. Client acquisition is the bottleneck.
The sales pipeline.
Exactly. The sources are very blunt about this. If you avoid the sales process, or if you simply aren't aggressive and strategic about it, your business will fail.
So it's not a build it and they will come situation.
Not at all. If we connect this to the bigger picture, this is exactly why the realistic income for a solo specialist who masters both the technical craft and the brutal sales process kind of plateaus around $60,000 to $75,000 a year.
Really? That's the plateau?
For a solo operator, yeah. Because that income represents building maybe 3 $2,500 websites a month. Earning that requires a relentless daily grind of client acquisition.
And let's talk about what happens when you finally do land that client, because the sources outline another major pitfall here, which is scope creep.
Oh, the dreaded scope creep.
Right. If you're listening to this and thinking about quitting your corporate job to just build cool digital products all day, this is the reality check.
Let's hear it.
So you agreed to build a basic 5-page website for a local dentist for $2,000.
Sounds pretty standard.
Everyone signs the contract, everyone is happy. But midway through the build, the client emails you and says, oh, hey, we really need to add a patient blog. And actually, our neighborhood has a huge Spanish-speaking population. Can we just translate the whole site real quick? Oh, and we need a custom local payment gateway integrated by Friday.
And beginners are notoriously eager to please.
Exactly.
They're terrified of getting a bad review or, losing the client's final payment. So they just say yes to these requests without stopping to adjust the price or the timeline.
And suddenly, a project you budgeted 20 hours for drags on for 2 extra months.
Yep.
You're manually translating pages, you're trying to hack a payment gateway into a system that wasn't built for it, and your effective hourly rate plummets from a highly profitable $100 an hour down to basically minimum wage.
which really underscores the harsh truth of the model. You are not just a digital creator. You are a strict project manager and a contract enforcer.
You have to be the bad guy sometimes.
You do. If you cannot look a client in the eye and say, yes, we can add a Spanish translation, and that will be an additional $800,
Right.
the entire financial architecture of your agency collapses.
Okay, so let's say someone listening has the ultimate discipline.
Right?
They conquer the 20/80 time management trap, they manage scope creep with ironclad contracts, and they are bringing in clients constantly.
They're crushing it.
Right. But if it takes that much human effort, negotiation, and strict management just to wrangle a single client and scrape by with $70,000 a year, what happens when an automated tool comes along that doesn't need to be managed at all?
That is the big shift.
Because the sources point to an entirely different class of threats emerging in 2026. These aren't just bad habits, they are existential, industry-shifting, external threats.
The biggest one, of course, being AI commoditization.
We really have to critically examine how fast the underlying technology is moving here. We aren't just talking about AI writing blog posts anymore.
No, we are way past that. Tools like V0, Bolt.new, GPT-01, and Claude 3.7 have advanced to the point where they generate fully functional, interactive front-end interfaces from basic text prompts.
It's kind of unbelievable.
It is. You can literally type a sentence like, I need a dark mode dashboard for a real estate company with an interactive revenue chart, and within seconds, the AI outputs the actual usable code for that exact design.
For a subscription fee of maybe $30 a month.
Exactly.
Why on earth would a client pay a freelancer $3,000 and wait 3 weeks when they can type a prompt and get a result instantly?
They wouldn't.
Right. Are generic no-code builders about to become the Blockbuster Video of the tech world? Completely decimated by a cheaper, faster AI streaming service.
This raises a really important question. If an artificial intelligence can build the exact same aesthetic design and underlying code for a fraction of a percent of the cost, what is the human digital agency actually selling in 2026?
We will get to how agencies are solving that, but AI isn't the only structural threat, right?
No, it's not. The sources highlight vendor lock-in as a critical danger too.
Okay, what does that mean in this context?
When you build a client's entire business on a proprietary platform like Webflow, Framer, or Bubble, their business logic, their customer data, and their daily workflows are entirely trapped inside that specific vendor's ecosystem.
Let's put that into a physical perspective.
Sure.
It's like building a custom multi-million-dollar mansion for a client, but the catch is you built the entire thing out of giant Lego bricks that are legally owned by the landlord.
That is exactly it.
And if the landlord suddenly decides to triple the rent on those bricks, your client can't just pick up their house and move it to a cheaper neighborhood. They'd have to tear the mansion down to the foundational studs and rebuild it from scratch using real wood.
That is the exact vulnerability. The switching costs to migrate off a no-code platform to custom code are astronomically high. And our sources explicitly warn that no-code platforms are highly risky for complex, heavy-load software-as-a-service projects because performance throttles when dealing with massive data volumes.
And layered on top of that architectural risk is a massive legal and security risk, particularly regarding the European Union and GDPR compliance.
This is where it gets really dangerous for beginners.
Give me the ELI 5 on this. Explain it like I'm 5, because the sources mention shadow IT causing GDPR violations.
Okay.
Let's say I use a basic automation tool like Zapier to take a client's incoming customer emails from their website and drop them into a Google Sheet so the client can read them easily.
Pretty common setup.
Am I accidentally storing protected European consumer data on a non-compliant US server? Is that what shadow IT is?
Yes. You have just perfectly described shadow IT.
Oh, man.
It's any software, application, or data flow used within an organization without the explicit knowledge and oversight of an official IT department.
And that's bad.
Very bad. In 2025, official GDPR inspections jumped 40% across the EU.
40%.
Yeah. So when a freelance agency strings together a website, a third-party form builder, a Zapier automation, and a Google Sheet, they are creating a really complex web of data transfers.
I see where this is going.
If any single link in that chain doesn't automatically comply with stringent GDPR standards for data encryption and server location, the agency has just exposed their client to massive legal liability and devastating fines.
That is a terrifying reality for a solo freelancer who just wanted to make pretty landing pages.
Suddenly you're holding the bag for international data compliance laws.
Okay, so we have AI breathing down the industry's neck, we have vendor lock-in threatening client scalability, and we have the legal minefield of shadow IT.
It sounds bleak.
It really does. How are the successful agencies not only surviving this, but scaling up to that $150,000 or even $250,000 profit level that our financial breakdowns show?
Well, they survive by fundamentally blowing up their original business model.
Meaning what?
The era of the generic web developer is dead. You cannot sell raw labor or basic design anymore because AI has just commoditized it down to zero.
Right.
The agencies pulling in $250,000 have positioned themselves as business growth partners.
So what does this all mean in practice? It means that the successful players have stopped being builders and have evolved into architects of a client's entire digital ecosystem.
Exactly. They don't sell a website, they sell a bundle.
A bundle.
They sell an integrated outcome. Instead of approaching a client and pitching, I'll design a 5-page site for $1,500, the pitch becomes, I will build you an end-to-end automated lead generation pipeline.
That sounds way more valuable.
It is. The bundle includes the high-converting website, sure, but it integrates advanced functionality that a business owner just doesn't have the time or technical patience to figure out.
Like what kind of functionality?
The agency sets up local SEO mapping. They seamlessly integrate a HubSpot CRM so every customer interaction is tracked legally. And they install a 247 AI chatbot customized to instantly qualify incoming leads before a human ever even has to pick up the phone.
You completely changed the competitive dynamic there.
Hmm.
The small business owner isn't comparing your $5,000 proposal to a $30 AI tool anymore.
Nope.
Because the AI tool can't strategically integrate their local SEO ranking with their specific CRM database.
Exactly. The business owner just wants more qualified sales calls, and they will gladly pay for the architecture that delivers that.
So by bundling all of these disparate tools into one cohesive pipeline, the sources show the average client check skyrockets from a measly $1,500 up to between $5,000 and $10,000.
And furthermore, these elite agencies are using AI as an internal multiplier.
Wait, so they're using the AI that's supposed to be killing their industry?
Yes. They aren't fighting tools like Cursor or Bolt.
Hmm.
They use a hybrid approach. They use the visual interface of no-code platforms to build the structure really quickly, and then they use AI coding assistants to write custom JavaScript or complex back-end logic that would normally require a highly paid traditional software engineer.
So they're delivering enterprise-level functionality on a freelancer budget.
Exactly. They are leveraging the exact threat that is killing the lower-tier freelancers to become their own superpower.
That is brilliant. And there's one final piece to this survival strategy that basically acts as the holy grail for this entire industry.
Recurring revenue.
Yes. Our sources point out that the most devastating mistake a beginner makes is treating the website launch as the end of the transaction. You get your final check and you walk away.
Right, which means you have to start from zero the next day.
Yeah.
The initial build is really merely the onboarding phase of a long-term relationship.
So how do you keep them?
To truly scale without burning out on constant sales calls, you have to transition the client to a monthly retainer.
Offering what exactly?
You offer ongoing maintenance, priority support, premium hosting, and continuous SEO optimization.
Okay.
If you charge $50 to $150 a month for these services, the mathematical compound effect is staggering.
Let's do the math on that. If you spend 2 years grinding and you secure just 50 clients who pay you a modest $100 a month for maintenance and SEO.
That's $5,000 a month.
Right. That's $60,000 a year in almost entirely passive, predictable income before you even sell a single new project.
The sources actually highlight a specific real-world example of Tai Fujimura's agency.
Oh, yeah. His numbers are wild.
His operation earns $62,000 every single month.
Insane.
That is $750,000 a year. And it's largely built on the stability of this robust recurring revenue model.
But achieving that level of trust and that kind of recurring value demands absolute specialization, doesn't it?
Absolutely. You cannot be a generalist trying to serve restaurants, real estate agents, and e-commerce stores all at once.
You spread yourself too thin.
Right. The strategic blueprints highly emphasize niching down. For example, your agency specializes exclusively in building Shopify infrastructures for direct-to-consumer brands.
Or you focus entirely on building internal inventory tools using Bubble for mid-sized logistics companies.
Exactly. This deep specialization is how you insulate your business from cheap overseas labor and generalized AI.
Because you're no longer just a web developer, you're the undisputed expert in how their specific industry operates in the digital space.
Spot on.
So let's pull all of these threads together for you listening. The original mission of this deep dive was to figure out if the 2026 no-code agency model is a goldmine or a trap.
And it really depends.
The reality we've uncovered is that it is entirely dependent on your strategy.
Yeah.
Yes, the geographic arbitrage is real, and you can launch this with just a few $100s.
Yeah.
And yes, the net margins are incredibly high, resting between 60 to 85% if you manage your operations tightly. But the rules of the game have been rewritten by artificial intelligence. You can no longer make a living selling pretty digital real estate.
You really can't.
You have to step up and sell a comprehensive, technically integrated solution. I really want you to think about how this bundling concept applies to your own career, regardless of your industry.
That's a great takeaway.
How can you stop selling your raw, easily replaceable labor and start selling a complete integrated outcome that solves a massive headache for your boss or your clients?
Because that pivot from laborer to strategic architect is the essential shift for survival.
It absolutely is.
However, it does leave us with one final unresolved dynamic to consider.
Oh, what's that?
We've established that you survive the current wave of technological disruption by becoming the human architect who integrates all these disparate tools for the busy client.
Great, the business growth partner.
But if AI is already capable of building the website interface, and we know that very soon, autonomous AI agents will be able to effortlessly integrate the CRM, run the local SEO, and manage the data compliance.
Oh, wow.
What happens in a few short years when the small business owner's personal AI simply negotiates directly with your agency's AI?
That's a wild thought.
As technology inevitably automates both the manual labor and the strategic integration, where will the true, irreplaceable value of human curation sit in the digital economy of 2030?